Hello, brothers and sisters. This is Lucia Arden here in Città del Peve, Italy. This is very serious, and I've been talking about China for years now, before 2019. I'm a geopolitical specialist, and geopolitical power is the power that countries want to get to be imperialistic nation, to overtake land, ocean, and skies, and anything they could get to destroy other countries and get items, whether they're commodities, whether land, whether they're monies. This is very serious. Things have changed. We have a geopolitical problems because of this, and it's relative across the board in many things. But I want to show you this news that you know, and to reiterate the seriousness of China and the protection of our information.
A troubling security story out of Washington. The U.S. Treasury Department says it was hacked by cyber criminals backed by the Chinese state government in what it's calling a major breach. CBS News Homeland Security and Justice reporter Nicole Skanga is in Washington following this story for us. Nicole, what do we know about the scope of the breach? What were hackers able to access?
Yeah, Lindsay, a Treasury official actually said cyber criminals breached federal workstations remotely, accessing unclassified documents. And in a letter to lawmakers sent Monday, that Treasury official explained that cyber criminals gained access by using a key stolen from a third-party vendor called Beyond Trust, overriding the security of their cloud-based system. That official called the attack a major incident. As you pointed out, the vendor notified the Treasury back on December 8th. Now, while we know that none of the information accessed was classified, still a number of questions remaining for the Treasury, including how many documents were stolen and did they contain any crucial information, any taxpayer information, for instance.
What is the Treasury Department doing in the aftermath of this hack, and is the Chinese government responding?
Yeah, well, a Treasury Department spokesperson said it's taken that service offline, and it added in a statement that there's no evidence indicating the threat actor has continued access to Treasury information. So they're now working with the FBI and the nation's top cybersecurity agency called CISA to determine really what was the exact impact here. As for any reaction, a Chinese embassy spokesperson has called the disclosure here a smear attack. Beijing's foreign ministry is also responding, saying that the PRC has, quote, always opposed all forms of hacker attacks.
Nicole, this breach, it comes on the heels of several other Chinese-linked cyber attacks. I mean, there was one from October that we reported on by a hacking group known as Salt Typhoon. It hit telecom companies like Verizon and AT&T. And at that time, a U.S. senator said this should be a wake-up call for the government. Are we doing enough? And what more can you tell us about the timing of all this?
Yeah, Lindsay, you're exactly right. This breach really follows a string of Chinese-linked cyber attacks, including that massive hacking campaign by the group nicknamed Salt Typhoon, that Chinese-linked group. And cyber criminals backed by the Chinese state targeted at least 8 U.S. telecommunications companies. You mentioned a few big ones there. According to U.S. officials, that compromised the metadata of hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of Americans. That's the
Okay, we see this terrible thing with China, and this runs across everything that China has done. And we have to be considerate of understanding that China will hack anything that they want to hack. And this is a very serious thing that China also hacked companies in 2023, 2024, and took all their information. And many companies have come to fruition of recognizing it and were saved. Others weren't. And my book, God's Power, America Save Our Legacy, I talk about this information. This is my information. In God's Power, America Save Our Legacy. This is a Christian-based book, but it's a foundation of the Judeo-Christian ethics, but it is a political book looking at issues on how to solve the solutions and be aware in hindsight that I've been asking for many years now with China. many years I've been asking for China to be careful with China. Our country has to be careful. We have to realize that China has gotten in every way billions of dollars in every way. I mean, they've gotten before the tariffs, before President Trump put the tariffs on, China got billions of dollars independently. And this is terrible, and not until we put the tariffs on China, which I asked in 2014. And when President Trump came in, he did do it. He was the first American president that protected our country in that way. We didn't take in consideration another thing, that China, we owe $8 billion to China. We pay the debt through taxes, and we only pay the interest. China uses the money for the Red Army. See, that is made the military chart. We have a chart in this book. It shows that China has the largest army in the world, but they don't have strategic experience on how to do good war. And so this all relates. They want to hack everything, information, the federal and everything. And that's terrible. They could get into maybe offices in the military of high-powered information, which I told you before, that China, I warned you that China you have to be very careful, because they got into all the apparatuses of the cranes. Because they own all the crane apparatuses where the ports and deliver our products, and they control it by apparatus through the computer system, and also military plane. I told them China is not a Christian nation. It's a nation of unfortunately evil, and even though we know that our President Trump is very experienced in negotiation, and we know that our country is powerful, but we need to stay in check. That China, the emergency is China's army and Russia together is a massive, even though we are the top for many years now. I talked about this, and this all relates. My name's Lucia. I'm a geopolitical specialist about China and all countries, about how to assess ideas and question about the geopolitical powers. Emergency is China's army and Russia together is massive, even though we are the top in many areas of true life and truth of justice. God's Judeo-Christian principles of wisdom and justice and paramount. Did you see Russia was attempting to bring items through the airports? Also set up missiles to make South Africa, and recently visit Cuba. This is all coming together. We have to be very careful. That's why we have to make our treaties, and we have to be careful. And this all relates. And I discussed China in my other book, see, in A Rise to God's Truth. China, and that was written in 2020. And but the information I've been talking about China was before 2016, to be aware. Then these are all the things that Steve Bannon, even though there's controversies with him, he's the one that brought a lot of the ideas to make us realize about China. I've always looked up to him. I even sang a song for him. And but we need to realize that we owe $800 billion to China's debt. So we only pay the interest, and thank God, our President Trump and the team. And I asked in 2014 to put tariffs on China, and because we just pay the interest. We have 30 to 40% of our manufacturing from them. They have bought fentanyl brought fentanyl to kill our people. The sociological entered into universities and promoting their ideas, donating funds, and hiring professors they control. Even I've had experience with that, with Caltech in Pasadena, and I asked them to review that many times, because I noticed when I went there, they broke my computer, and they had a big influx of Chinese people. The students were lovely, but their leaders, could control things and get information and sell it, stealing businesses and ideas of big business, which they did, which they stole businesses. Businesses were brought down and broken down. These are all things that they did wrong. The CCP virus killed the people and destroyed people's life across the world. Secret police offices set up controlling computer systems. They want to take over Taiwan, which we have to protect Taiwan. and want to do war indirectly and seeking to take items in faulty business. And I believe that China is in cahoots with Russia. You know, where did Russia get these drones right away? Because we know that Russia is selling their oil, but it was said 2 years ago that in 10 years they would want to control USA, and that's why we have to be careful. They have entered geopolitically into many countries to gain power of control, as I told you in my my speaking engagements and just my posting, that China's in the center, and you have Iran, Iraq, you have India, and then you have Africa, and above China you have Russia, and then you have Europe, and then on the east you have Taiwan, and then from Russia, then you, as we talked about, Greenland, and then but right above the north area they have a landing space where they're building. I told you to develops of a airport, and also develop products, and they could bring their products from there to Canada, which I think they're infiltrated in Canada, and then also across the way they have work with Brazil, and also Honduras sold herself to China, and that's right below Mexico, and then United States, and so they could get in all ways, and going down south to the South Seas, Australia. So we have to be very careful, and I asked about that, all be protected. And one thing we have to realize, under Kamala Biden, many governments controlled loans to China, made military tools. Is it true? Is it true? I read that our beautiful company, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, was making giving loans so they can make military tools for China. Biden was involved in China treason. That's what I believe in USA. Gates is an advisor to the leaders of China, which I don't agree. And here it is. Is it true that BlackRock gives loans to China to make military tools? This is terrible. And I know one of the leaders in BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, she is Chinese. And I was shocked she was Chinese. She is Chinese. I don't know if she's still there. Secret CCP businesses set up laboratories and businesses next to military stations. This is true. This is all the things that China's, we have to be careful. In each state, censorship of our America, threatening our energy computer systems, which we just saw. And this is what we have to be careful, because the next thing could be is the warning of the electric problem, to turn off our electricity or cause trouble with our electricity. But any country could do that. We have to be very careful. These are just some ideas of urgencies. There are many more. I sit in and I consulted to look all overseas in all military tools. They found apparatuses of China and technology. As I told you, they found this in the military tools. I asked them to look, and they found it in airplanes. And I also say to consult to manufacturing from China, and they affect the major of the daily life of humans. They found cranes where they deliver food. Technology controls the cranes from China, and that needed to be taken care of by Wi-Fi. By Wi-Fi, this is what's terrible. I also, and that's how they got into the federal businesses, because they did it through another app. This is and through Wi-Fi, through another app. I also stated to look at all offices of the government. You could find communist people selling information to China, which we saw that, and they'll still find more. There are drones made by China in our skies that appear to be birds, and also other drones. This is true. And there are drones that people cannot see that they attack others, in whether they're freedom fighters or just people themselves. China has developed, which is terrible, China has developed the largest marijuana plant in Northern California, illegal, running it, and even trafficking. They have taken over 90% of the marijuana business illegally, and other scientists have found marijuana smoke kills the brain cells and other contraindications. They prepare it differently. I remember when I was counseling a young child in high school, and we had to tell the parents they got into marijuana, and they said that they smoked a different marijuana, and they felt like it was different because they dry it and they have to spray it. But there's hardly any more legal marijuana. They call them dispensaries because China does it illegally. And I heard that needs to be, that was being taken care of. But is it? That's very dangerous. And they also do trafficking. Did you know that there's invisible war tools that can be used that China has developed? Where something could disappear and then appear. These are just a few points. And remember, when a country wants to be a powerful nation, a military, they won't tell you everything you have. And this is why we do need undercover understanding. And this is why I believe we don't know everything they have, just like Russia. These are a few points. We know that there are many extreme seriousness also in China's entry with other nations I've discussed in my arguments and podcast. China, of course, you know China and Russia are not the only diabolic globalists and geopolitical powers. And this is why they said that globalist is finished. Globalist, we have serious contraindication of globalists. That's why we need to overtake every office in our country. But I don't believe to fire everybody, to give them a chance so they could get another job, or because there are many jobs. There are many jobs because the infrastructure has to be fixed. And if infrastructure of each state and also small and large business have to be redeemed. Even the schools education and the prison systems and the mental health, there's so many things that there's jobs for, I believe, still for the people that we need to develop, and we could rehire them. They need to be trained. Because I asked in 2012, Lisa Lucia and I asked in 2012, I showed you that, to check every office. I asked, my name's Lisa Lucia Arden, I asked in 2012 under this book, see this book, Our Need to Give to the World? And it's interesting because that's what in prayer, because I'm a prayer warrior, that we need, as Americans, we need to watch ourselves and also the world, because it's become a geopolitical power. I wrote my first edition in 2016, and I talked about the issues of checking every office. And I begged and begged, but I've had many, many things happen that very serious things. And then 2019, I made another edition. This shows that we need to carry on the truth of our country, because things have changed, because we are not the only powerhouse. In World War II, we developed Western, Eastern countries instead of being an imperialistic nation and taking everything. We need to realize, here's brief notes about China, that we need to understand that that China is, here's in June 2022, we as people need to realize that the communist and socialist elite powers and fast-paced life and technology moving at the line of speed of light have a direct relationship to the effects of human life. And this has a lot to do with the CCP. As we know, Fauci and the Chinese Wuhan lab, they knew what they were doing and what happened. And unfortunately, Fauci made a lot of comments that didn't have any backup. And that's why I said about the vaccine, which I got in trouble in America, California, that I said no vaccines because there wasn't enough statistics. But I knew that they were going to have a CCP, a virus made or poison to poison people. And we need to realize that China now is saw another there's another virus that has come to terrible in a lab is shown, and even Elon Musk has said something else may happen. We have to be very, very careful about this this rampant communism and socialism put together. They try to cover it with socialism, which they did under Biden, but no, it's communism controlling the people and getting very little monies and not letting develop our country, and then making our country in debt, which I told you the debt does have to be corrected and looked at. But if we're going to be getting monies back, I hope from our monies that we gave you Zelensky, but I'm on Zelensky's side. He protected us and he protected the whole of Europe. And we need to come together in fruition with him and protect him and be in a kind, loving manner and in protection of each other. Not one person died of our military, correct? This is very serious, very, very serious. I could go on because you have to look at the whole picture. When you talk about getting into the offices of China, that China got into the offices, it all relates because they're going to use it for something. Do you understand? And they have so much leverage of all their evil, of their crimes, which I listed. That's leverage of controlling us. We have to be very, very careful. China has become a powerful nation with Russia integrating with world powers. And I am an individual, independent political analyst. And so I don't have all the details, but I have generalizations. And I just talked about the East and West, that we empowered them in World War II. China's geopolitical power is vast across all sides of the globe. We have to realize that I studied one world government in Laverne University when I took my BA, and I talked about China, and I realized the problems. And since then, I had a calling about this. And here's the CCP virus that was made in the lab, inside job with Fauci and the CCP and others and the elite communists. This is terrible, and I don't know what they're going to do, with Fauci, but there needs to be some deliberation of mediation, and also it needs to come together with these issues right away about this, because we in Cuba, in military tools in China. Now, come on, brothers and sisters. And I was called to go to Puerto Rico last year to ask Puerto Rico to protect themselves and the borders. And Cuba is making military tools with China in Cuba. And then Russia went to Cuba to visit, and they planted their airplanes there and their boats and whatever to do practices, because we allowed missiles to come directly into Russia to protect herself because Ukraine needed help. This is very serious. So this all relates. So we have to undercover and be undercover for that. There's nine criminal billionaire cartels internationally, but China's the number one approximately, and brings all the crime to America. And it's their elite communists, as we know. With fentanyl, they use the money for fentanyl, China, and big cartels of globalization, geopolitical technology. We need to realize that geopolitical economy, geopolitical power, economy, technology, globalization. And they buy big things, they buy islands, they buy properties, they buy commodities. And they have offices set up, as I told you, so to be very, very careful. The United States of America is the third highest country of abortions, and China is the top. And this is very, very terrible. So what do they do with all the babies? Do they use it for scientific testing? And the Chinese are my brothers and sisters. I lived with them in San Marino for over 20 years, and they migrated from China to San Marino. But we need to realize China is still, even though President Trump has everything in the team seemingly under control, we in excellent communication, we still need to protect our country. Just like President Trump said, do you have problems with drugs? Oh, no, we don't have problems with drugs. And this is why I believe he did the right thing with putting the tariffs on China. And they on TikTok, they have all that stuff that they allow things that are bad for the people to see. And the school systems, they try to infiltrate our woke systems and universities, everything. But in China, they teach all the children the best things that they can. And we need to slam the door on our way of learning and the way of allowing China to infiltrate in our country and restructure the education of children. And here it is. They want to make the country weak and sick with drugs and fentanyl and drugs. Just like President Trump said years ago in 2016, it's a war on drugs. It's a silent war on the people to kill the people. And who brought in those drugs in Philadelphia and Maine and all those? They sprayed it in the air. Also, those are globalists that sprayed it in the air in San Francisco, and many people are killed. And many people are sick because of this. These are just different informations. And now we're getting into the China and the leadership of the biogenically made foods that China uses. I just saw the ice cream and whatever, and some of the foods are made very terrible in China. With China, we can't have Chinese foods. Has to be very careful. There has to be new laws and regulations. Some of the Chinese food is so beautiful, it's meant well, it's traditional, but other foods are terrible. And remember, businesses by China, they're controlled by CCP, so we have to be careful. Is that correct? Look it up. Is that correct? Does China, all China's businesses that are in China, are they have to be controlled by CCP? That's what I heard. So we have to be very, very careful. And I do agree with President Trump. Our country, companies that are in our country, they also have to have taxes and tariffs that are from other countries that are in our country, because they get the benefits of America and other benefits. And also transportation alone is less, because transportation is one of the most expensive thing, is transporting the product from one place to the other. It's high cost. So I agree with President Trump, and also they're taking advantage of America by getting a regular price, like if we were American company. So I agree there has to be extra costs, tariffs, and so forth for other countries making products in America. And that's another subject too, but it's important. Communist powers gives international representatives the right to continue to treat communist China leaders and her counterparts, the action being refused the merits of honors of trading, business, diplomacy, and even removed and excommunicated from certain parts of business life. We have to be very careful. And I want to know what I heard, and I need help with this, with the hostages. There's hostages in China that are American, that are businessmen that they won't let get out. And we need to look at every country again with the hostages in every country and trade them right away. But I heard, is that true? I heard that there's businessmen in China they won't let them out in China. They need to be corrected. And I worked on this for years with China, and I got in big trouble because China controlled a lot of California in the United States. And they did a lot of controlling, and this is very terrible. And we need to realize that this is a very serious situation. Now we're talking about the military, which we won't talk in extensiveness, but China does have the largest military, but now they're hooked up with Russia, but they don't know how to strategically, effectively combat like America does. So this is a good thing, but we still need to come together with our country of protecting it, which we are. And I believe that we need to protect Taiwan, and that's another subject. And it's another subject. And I appreciate your time. This is Lucia Arden, and here's my work. Here's the book that I just talked about, In God's Power, America Save Our Legacy. It's on Amazon. If you could give me, it's $9.99. You could please give me a book review. I've been spending many years on these books. My first book was in 2016, as I said, and but many years, over 20 years on America, and this is a very serious thing, and all medicines have to be protected. Did you know, as I said, that China has the greatest, because I told you this before, they have the greatest, biggest in 2000, I think it was 2016 or 2016 or 16, I had an interview with the big vitamin company, and they have the greatest company where they make powdered vitamins and then they package it here. We have to be careful of all our pharmaceuticals. Do you hear me? We need to bring it back to America. My name is Lucia Arden. Please give me a book review, and I'm also a consultant and guard of solutions. Individually, before I did this work with geopolitical powers, I was in the medical practice for 20 years, and I still do. I do individual counseling for families, relationships. I have a client now. I can't name names, and here's Arnie to give to the world, but a client now that for marriage and relationships, and also I am a political analyst, and I've done many informations to help America. Presently, I talked about the deliberation of using monetary systems and it's in this book, In God's Power, and also in this book, God First, America, a Miracle, that talks about, and these are new books if you could give me a book review, but it talks about the deliberation of using commodities and not war to stop war. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. This is Lucia Arden. Please give me a book review, and also if you could give us donation. And I also sell stem cell patches, which was over 20 years. As a company over 20 years, it's shown that it improves the body of our health, which we need to consider health first. And I was in the medical practice for 20 years. That's another specialty that I worked in for years, is the health. So God bless you. Thank you very much. Please look me up, lisaluchar.com, and Arise to God's Truth. And we're having a great meeting together for a virtual meeting about America and unity and justice for all. And I'm a singer also. Thank you so much. God bless you. Please look me up, Lisa Lucia Arden. God bless you.